Welcome back to the gardening classroom. So if you did not get a chance to look at the YouTube video that was posted in your Google Classroom of Mariana Becomes a Butterfly, make sure you stop this video and go watch the first 4 chapters that were posted in your Google Classroom. This book is going to highlight some topics on pollination and kind of how it works. So make sure you listen to that video before you go any further with this if you have not already watched it. So if you have watched that video, go ahead and take out a blank sheet of paper and write down these questions from the book. So I want you to review the book and answer these questions, and then we will highlight some of these questions when we get a chance to meet in our virtual call for your school. So I want you to write down and think about these following questions. Where was the plant from that Mariana was trying to grow? What was Mariana's plant puzzle? What was her problem with her plant? Write down any details that you remember from the book about what her specific problem was from her plant. And then what was the first step that Mariana took to solve her problem about her plant? And then what do you think that she's going to do to help her plant's puzzle? Okay? And then I want you to write down what you think that pollination is based on the book, based on what you've learned maybe at school, based off of what maybe you've heard others people talk about pollination. So I want you to pause the video and answer those questions. And when you're ready, you can come back and we'll continue our lesson. So now that you have gotten a chance to think about pollination, you've listened to the online book, the chapters 1 through 4. Let's go into pollination and let's get out your sheet from your kit that was called the Pollination System. And there's 2 sheets of those. You can get both of them out, but the first one down here on the very bottom is going to say 1-2, and I want you to get that one out first. And it also has the letter A at the top as well. So the first sheet here, it has a word bank at the top left-hand corner, and then it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 plant parts that you need to label, and then write down what the function for that plant part is. And then this is a little bit of a hint into what next lesson is going to be about. But number 6, what do you think a hand pollinator is, and what do you think that it would replace? Okay, so I want you to take the time to do number 1 through 5, and then 6 if you've got a guess on what that is, okay? And if you need a little bit of a help, go to sheet B, 1 through 3, and use maybe what you can tell off of this to help you with sheet A. And then when you're done with sheet A, you can also then go right into sheet B. And when you're ready, pause this video, and when you're ready, go ahead and come back and we'll talk about these answers. Okay, so now that you have those figured out, and if you didn't get them all answered, that's okay, because we're going to go through the answers right now. So pollination. Pollination is taking the little pollen that's inside of each flower and it's transferring it to another flower so we can help it grow. So in the means of flowers, it'll help the actual bloom and flower of the actual plant, but in fruit, that pollination helps the flower turn into a fruit. So without pollination, you won't be able to have some of the fruits you eat. Some of the fruits you eat are strawberries, tomatoes, watermelon. Without pollination, you wouldn't have those fruits to eat. And some animals that help pollinate are bees and butterflies and even flies. Any little critter that can crawl onto that plant and get the pollination out and then go to a next plant and drop it off is called a pollinator. That is the insect or bug or little critter that does the act of pollination for you. So let's go to worksheet A, which is the 1-2, and I'm going to give you guys the answers. So if you want to correct your answers or maybe write down some more details, as I go. You're more than welcome to. So, number 1, the name was the flower, and the function is makes pollen, nectar, and the seeds. Number 2 was the pollen, right down here. Right inside the flower is where the pollen's at. And that function is to help another flower to make the seeds. So that is what the little bugs and little critters going on your flowers is going to take to another flower. And then number 3 down here, which is deep down inside the flower, was called the nectar. And that function attracts the insects to the flower and provides food for the insect. So like a butterfly has a really long tongue, and it can dip its tongue deep down inside the flower to get the nectar to eat. And certain insects are attracted to certain flowers based on their mouth parts, and that was touched on in the book that you guys got to listen to. Like hummingbirds are attracted to certain flowers because of their long beaks, and butterflies are attracted to different kinds of flowers because of their long tongues that they have in their mouth. So let's go on to number 4 down here, deep down, all the way at the bottom of the flower, are the seeds. And those functions are to grow into new plants that make new flowers, which make the nectar and the pollen. And then number 5, floating over here, was the insect. And that function is to pick up the pollen, drop off the pollen, and eat the nectar. And then number 6, if you answer that, what part of the system does a hand pollinator replace? Is an insect. So be thinking about that question, because that question is going to lead us into next week. Hand pollinators. What do you think a hand pollinator is? Maybe we'll try to discuss that when we get a chance to meet as a class. We're going to talk about a little bit into next week, but next week is all going to be about what this hand pollinator thing is. All right, so let's turn to the next worksheet. Was the B up here in the corner, and it's also 1-3. So we're going to start at the top left, and we're going to start with insect. So the insect needs to go all the way down here, and that job was to pick up pollen, drop off pollen, and eat the nectar. And the flower goes up to the word job, and it makes pollen, nectar, and seeds. The next one down was the pollen, and that goes clear down to the bottom to help another flower make seeds. And the next one was nectar, and that one attracts insects to the flowers and provides food for insects. And then the next one down was the seeds, and that one goes up to grow into new plants that make new flowers. So these 2 worksheets go a lot hand in hand. They are kind of repetitive, but it really helps you kind of understand what the what pollination is, and it shows you how important each little part of the plant is to the environment, and it shows you that each little part has its own little job function. So now that you've got a chance to think about that, you can take time to maybe color the flower that's on one of the worksheets, or you could get out a blank sheet of paper that was in your kit, and you can draw your own flower with your own parts in it. Make it as colorful as you want. Think about what insects pollinate flowers, and maybe draw some insects around there. But I want you guys to really think about what pollination is, and we're going to touch on it when we get a chance to meet as a class at your designated time. So that's all that I have for you today. Make sure you get a chance to try the recipe that was posted. Shelby did a recipe called pumpkin pudding, and it's really good. So I hope you get the chance to try out that recipe whenever you are able to get the ingredients, or maybe you already have the ingredients at home. It's like 4 simple ingredients, and it's super yummy. So while you're eating it, think about what ingredients are in there, and are any of those ingredients pollinated by any animals? Because I bet that at least one of those ingredients is a fruit, and I bet it grows from a flower. So think about that while you're making the snack. So we will touch base when we get to meet with your class, and I will see you back here next week for next week's lesson. Thank you.